Hey folks, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Here today I want to share a new product, or rather just kind of a slight variation on an existing product, and I want to show how they compare. So I'm going to talk about our classic lineup of tanks and stove bags, and also our new variation which I'm calling Speed Lash, and I'll just show the pros and cons of each. So just a little note before I get started, this is our classic system, and I'll take a look at it in a minute. For those of you that are already familiar with our classic system and you just want to see the Speed Lash, the new system, and see how that differs, I'll put a little timestamp down in the description and you can just click that and it'll just jump ahead in the video to the correct point. So I'm going to start here with the classic tank and the classic stove bag. I've already done a video on this. I'll put a link to it, so maybe I'll go over this somewhat quickly. The toboggan in front of me is fully outfitted in sort of our standard classic sense. We've got some lash lines, a bunch of adjustable lash rings on prussiks, which we can lock along those running lines. And we've got lash buckles. And so onto that, we would typically lay our tank. Now a tank is just a big specialized bag, a little bit like a duffel. We'd lay our tank down and we'd load up our load. In this case, I'm moving a lot of deer hide. And then we fold in all the flaps on the tank. And we'd close and cinch that up. And then I'll do the same with the stove bag. Stove bag on the toboggan. Stove into the bag. All the flaps up. Close and tighten. So at this point, I've got a nice clean load. Things are closed up, but nothing's actually connected to the toboggan yet. So then, I'll grab my lash line, passing it through the rings. I would just work my way back until I get to a buckle, pass through the buckle, and then I'd go back, tighten everything up a little bit further. We can really haul on this, get the load really nice and clean, and do the same thing. So we do our lash straps in a couple of lengths, breaking it up halfway or sometimes breaking it up at thirds depending on how long your toboggan is, just to make it a little less line to play with. So that's our classic system. Works very well. We're quite happy with it. We've used it for a decade now. Some advantages. These lash straps, they're running through, they're connected by 3mm accessory cord, running through a solid brass ring. And then this heavy polyester lash line is going to a steel buckle. So if you end up going sideways, down into a tree well or down a hill, you can grab those guys anywhere and you can haul that toboggan. You could lift your whole load from those lines. So that's kind of nice. It does give you another spot you can grab, but I tend to just always grab for those running lines anyways. And so you don't really need to have the lash lines as a grab point. I tend to always grab for the running line. But that's one nice option. Another advantage is you've got these lash lines at camp. If you unload everything and then you decide to go out and cut some firewood and you end up wandering a little farther than you expected, you can throw all that firewood on your toboggan, lash it down with the same lash system, and haul it back to camp that way. And also, something like this stove bag could be used, closes up nicely without the toboggan. It's just an independent bag that's going to be handy other times of the year as well. So if you take your stove shoulder season canoe tripping, then you've got a nice bag for it for that as well. So that could be an advantage there. Major disadvantage to this system is it is slower than our speed lash system. So it's kind of two parts, as you saw. The first part is going to be closing up the tank, and then cinching and tightening up those straps on the tank, and then running through your lash line to lash the whole load down. So two parts there. And that's something that we have sped up or corrected with the speed lash system. So we'll look at that. Okay, so we'll take a look at the speed lash system now. One of the first things you might notice, aside from the color, is that this one has been stripped of all outfitting. So there's no lash lines, no lash rings, no lash buckles. Also, I'm working with the classic I demonstrated on a 10-foot toboggan with a 6-foot tank and a 2-foot stove bag. Here I'm demonstrating with a 8-foot toboggan with a 4-foot tank and a 2-foot stove bag. Now, I didn't do that just to make this speed lash look faster. I did it because the 4-foot speed lash tank was the only thing I've had in stock at the moment. They've been moving quickly, so we'll get at it. So I'll lay the tank on the toboggan, just like I did with the classic. Put her up. Bring in the end flaps. Now here, with the speed lash system, we've got one double-ended strap every couple of feet, and it's sewn to the middle of the top flap with hardware hanging down both sides. And that hardware is a clip with an integrated buckle. So we just reach down, clip, and pull. Clip, and pull. And we do that along the whole length of the tank. And I can go back and tighten everything up. And then, just like with the classic, you don't want any tails dragging, so any tails would just get tucked in somewhere up high so that they aren't going to drag under the load. Now this tank is both closed and secured to the toboggan all in one step, and that's what makes this system really nice. And we've got the same system in stove bags as well. Lay my bag down, stove in it. And we've got the hardware hanging down both sides. Clip. Clip. pull and pull. Clip, clip, pull and pull. And again, it's closed and it's secured to the toboggan just in one step. So, obvious advantage here, implied in the name as well, speed lash, and it's that it's faster to put on the toboggan. That is, you know, it maybe only saves a few minutes, but to me that is definitely worth it. I think it's a major improvement. Lashing of toboggans tends to be my least favorite part of winter camping. It's the coldest time of the day. Early morning temperatures still really low. Sun hasn't come up yet. Also, you haven't had your breakfast maybe, or you have, but it hasn't really started kicking in. So your metabolism isn't running the same way it would. And you're not being very active yet. You're just doing this fiddly work often with bare hands. So I find that's when people start getting cold, when people start getting uncomfortable, and anything we can do to kind of speed that up and mitigate that process, I think is definitely quite nice. Disadvantages, I've already mentioned you don't have the independent lash lines. So if you want to throw something else on this toboggan, like a load of logs, then you're going to need to have some bungees or some paracord or something else. Currently, we're shipping the toboggans with the lash system and the tank, but that may change and we may end up shipping the toboggan stripped. So that's to be determined, but it'll be definitely identified on the site what you'll be receiving. But if you receive it with the lash system and you really like the speed lash system, then I would strip the additional lashing off of there. And not have it hanging off, because I think it's just much nicer and cleaner here. I want to show when we get to camp, because it's actually even faster. So in the case of this stove bag, I did up 4 clips when I was loading it up, but actually when you get to camp, you can loosen all 4, but you actually only have to undo 2 of them. And you can leave the other 2 secured to the toboggan. Remove the stove. Just leave the stove bag on. So the next morning, you'll put the stove back in, and you'll only have 2 clips to do up. Same thing goes with the tank here. I only need to undo one side of the clips. And I can access the load. In fact, that's another advantage, especially when you get into longer tanks. Typically, we don't load anything into the tank that we think we might need during the course of the day's travel. But sometimes it happens. Maybe you get halfway down the trail and you realize, oh, I think I accidentally packed my heavy jacket that I need. With the classic system, you kind of have to unlash everything and dig through it, and it's a little bit of a slow process. With the speed lash system, if you think, oh, it's right at I'm pretty sure it's right at the front of the tank, then you don't need to undo the back half, and you could just jump right in to the front of the tank. So that's an advantage as well. Now, if we take a close look at the hardware here, it's plastic hardware, which has both advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that when you get into any of this little, small, fine hardware, you tend to have to bare your hands to work with it. So working with the plastic is much, much nicer and warmer than working with the metal hardware. Disadvantage is that they aren't totally 100% bomb-proof. We have tested them. We spent a whole year testing this hardware on speed lash tanks last winter. So they had almost 50 days out on the trail, and last year we encountered temperatures down to -35, I believe. And actually we've been testing the Speed Lash stove bags with the same hardware for 2 years now, and we had them up north down to -40. So we have seen these guys work very well at cold temperatures, but we have also broken a few. So these are designed to tighten up the load, but I wouldn't want to necessarily try to pick up an entire toboggan by hauling on these straps. I would want to grab that 5mm running line that runs the length of the toboggan instead if I was trying to right a toboggan or shift it sideways or pull it up a side hill. However, these straps are quite strong. In that case, that one folded rather than break, so that's nice. In colder weather, as they get more brittle, there is potential for breakage. Last year we had 3 Speed Lash bags in our rotation, so we're probably, they went on every single trip, so somewhere around 150 days, and we broke, pretty certain we broke 2 clips, so that was, you know, a clip every 75 days. And what happens if they do break is very easy. If you do break one, it's very, very easy. We include 4 spares with your bag, and you can just pop off the part you need. We haven't seen one of those buckles get broken yet. We've only seen the clips break, and so you will probably find if your clip breaks that your buckle will still be in fine shape. So you will just pop the broken, imagine this one's broken, pop your broken clip off, and pop your new one on, and away you go. You're back in action. So that takes just a matter of seconds to get a new one out of your bag and snap it on there, and doesn't require any tools. So we are quite confident that this system is going to stand the test of time and withstand the rigors of the winter trail. If it's not working for you, then just let us know and we want to make it right for you. But we have now tested it for a couple of years with the stove bags, and across a wide range of conditions, and quite happy with it. If you ask me for my opinion, my preference is the Speed Lash. I quite like them. I think that even though it might seem minor to do the loads a little bit faster, it is a big deal. It's really nice advantage, and it's what we're going to transition our whole fleet to. So we're going to continue offering the classic system and wait and see what people prefer, what their feedback is. If people really like having still that classic system available to them because they're using it in whatever various ways that we're not, then that's great. We'll continue offering it. But if it turns out that everyone loves the Speed Lash system as much as I do, then it might become the only standard that we sell. So we'll see. Look forward to hearing back from you guys, and yeah, hope you like it. Thank you. Bye.